Alrighty, so let's go to schedule. Today is the 26th. We just talked content layout. So again, let's kind of revisit the whiteboard drawings. Again, what you should do if you have not done is for your wireframes, your content layout, you need content in terms of types of content. Okay? So like what you were asking the other day, Ellie, I believe, do we need real content? When it comes to paragraphs, just use one note. Okay? But when it comes to content types, meaning if we're doing, again, the Save the Polar Bears website, and the reason that we're doing the websites, again, going back to the client survey stuff from Web 105, right, that how many, half of you didn't take Web 105? 80% of you didn't take Web 105, right? Again, what we were talking about earlier, right? So what's the reason why you are creating this website? Well, let's say it's a new nonprofit that you're trying to get off the ground. So I guess that's a new business model or a new business. So we are trying to join the environmental movements of global warming and saving the polar bears and so on and so forth. But we are specializing in trying to, you know, maybe rescue and save polar bears or try to do whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to do. So the main business objective then would be, obviously, to save the polar bears, right? So your main business objective pretty much is to stay in business, right? Right? That's your main business objective. I need to stay in business because, man, if I have to eat and pay my rent and stuff, I need to do that, right? That's, I mean, what, right? Yeah. So how then are you going to stay in business? Well, you have to then ask yourself, what is that primary call to action, right? Where, for instance, Liz, when we were talking about your client, that primary call to action might be to hire this person to do whatever videos. So then you'd have to ask yourself, as an audience member, right? So if the call to action is donations, you then have to present why to somebody, that why would they care about donating. So that if we talk about your audience members, the call to action or the primary tasks that we want them to do is to donate, right? So again, why would they donate? How can we entice them to donate? Or for instance, Liz, how can your client entice somebody to hire him? If it's him or her, him. So if you are doing a website for, you know, something like Doe Bay or some kind of a resort or something, and your primary call to action is to have people to reserve a room and come stay with you. Well, what are the reasons or what are the types of content that you need to then present on your website in order to convince them that, yes, hire me, or to convince them, yes, stay at this place, or convince them donate to us and help us save the polar bears. So some sample content then might be, well, sad photos, right? If we're saving the polar bears, really pull on those heartstrings. You know, maybe Sarah McLaughlin is too expensive, but somebody else to sing for me. I still want to create a montage of my dog looking at me because, you know, she's a privileged dog that when she looks really sad, she just wants to lick my plate, right? And so I want to do a montage, you know, but I haven't had enough time to do that. So what might convince somebody to donate? Well, maybe some statistics. Maybe if you donate, then a gift or a t-shirt or something, right? Some history, you know, math, figures, etc. So this kind of then this content here kind of becomes the functional specifications in terms of types of content that you need to feature in your content layout, right? In other words, we want an image slider on our homepage. Well, that's a functional specification. We want a contact page that sends an email to. Well, that's a functional specification. So those can be types of content, right? So then what you need to do then in terms of your page layout, right? You have branding, your navigation. Then in terms of content, you have main content and supplementary content. And then you have your footer or site info. So have you guys been then, since we last spoke, kind of brainstorming on the types of content that you need to feature on your homepage or within your site?
Yes.
Thank you. Sliding with this. Right? Kidding. Yes, I got it. I'm kidding. You might have. Right? So little stick figure, sad polar bear. Save me. Donate. Give me some history. Maybe give me some statistics. So if you're watching this on video, maybe give me some statistics that this links to a page about statistics. Maybe a free t-shirt, this links to get this t-shirt or sticker or whatever, right, for this amount of donation, okay? So if somebody clicks on a navigation item, then what does a gateway page look like? So again, if a gateway page is a page like this, where if we use my website as an example, right? What's the call to action here for my business? Again, hire me. So what are the types of pieces of content that I'm trying to show to you in order for you to feel comfortable to hire me? Well, I have recent projects with testimonials in my slideshow. I have a list of my services. I have a list of my portfolio pieces. I have a list of blog postings, right? So that's the then types of content that I would be featuring on my homepage. In terms of a main or a gateway page then, if we go to my services page, because maybe you're interested in my services, then this is merely a page that its main purpose is to provide you a gateway to get to that destination page, okay? So therefore, a page, this ends up, and how I design stuff, this content area ends up in kind of being a local nav or a sub-navigation. But still, we have our main content area. We have our sad little polar bear here, save me, donate, and then links to the destination pages. We also have links to the sub-pages with the destination pages here. We also have our supplementary content over here, like maybe, again, hey, statistics or a t-shirt or whatever. Then we finally get to a destination page where we have the answers to people's questions, hopefully. So let's say if this was a statistic page, maybe you'd have charts and information about the statistics, so on and so forth, okay? Make sense? So therefore, to answer your question, Janine, about, okay, well, what is the assignment? How many pages do we need to do? You need to complete wireframes for your project website. You need to do a home page, a main or a gateway page, and a sub or a destination page for desktop and mobile devices. So in other words, if we go back to this drawing, home, gateway, destination for desktop, here it is for mobile. We didn't do these two other pages, but here it is for mobile. Yes, Nicole?
The gateway page, I'm a little unsure because my page is just basically just like 5.
Right. So remember when I said that you need, so let's say it like this. If we look at these sets of pages here, about and contact don't have gateway pages. So this about page is a destination page. If the page has subpages, then this page becomes the gateway.
So for example, I have one that leads to a page like the reviews on the previous line. So that page that leads to that, those reviews, would that be a gateway?
Possibly. So let's pick a page within your site that has subpages and give me that pathway from home, gateway to destination. So remember how I said in the requirements, all of you, if we go back to the pick your site, the requirements were a home page, at least 4 main pages. One of those has to have subpages. Home page, gateway page, destination page. Does that make sense? Okay, so I want you to, when you are doing your wireframes, do the storyboard or task flow, whatever you want to call it, for home, gateway, destination. Does that make sense to everybody? That make sense? So whichever one it is in your website, again, I'd have to take a look at your
No,
site.
I understand the concept, I just wondering more specifically what the gateway page would be for such a small.
Do you have a page that has a main category and subpages?
Yeah.
That's your gateway page. Okay. Even if you have 1 or 2 subpages, right? I understand that you guys might be grasping at, trying to come up with subpages, right? Again, this is all new to you, newish to you. You'll get there once you're in the WEB200 class, right? It'll make sense to you. You'll have to deal with doing that stuff. Okay. But again, home, gateway, destination page. If you're kind of making it up, just solve the requirements of I need a main page that has subpages. Just do it, make it up, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So therefore, if this is then what we're talking about, this pathway, for an example, we go to the wireframe study for the Jet City Improv site, homepage, gateway page. So in other words, home. Let's say we clicked on our shows. So we're seeing our shows, and then these shows right there are the destination pages.
Is it home and gateway page?
True-ish, but it's the root level homepage, or it's the root level gateway page. Then the destination page of that actual show, okay? So the task flow or wireframe user pathway, if you will, whatever you want to call it, that I chose to show them was I was doing the proto site. Homepage. The Our Shows page then is the gateway that I chose to lay out because I need to show them how the overall content structure is going to come together, right? So all of the gateway pages should follow the similar kind of look and feel and layout, right? So the Our Shows page, then you go to Jet City Improv, which is the destination page, right? Here's me, I'm not a cast member, but there I am anyway, okay? So therefore, this is going to kill me, the speed. Is it running slow for you guys? Right? Homepage. Again, this is the level of completeness that I need. Gateway, destination. So we're going to do it in Illustrator. So I'm going to show you how to create the document structure that I want you to follow. I also have these Jet City ones for you to look at if you want to. So if you go to the wireframes assignment page, downloads, Jet City Improv wireframes. download. No, I think I already have it in my. Oh, it's great. Downloading it twice because it took a while to start downloading. So if I go to my documents folder, WEB200, I should have wireframes, Jet City Improv already there, right? Wireframes, JCI. I also have a font that I'm using, Felt Tip Roman. Okay, so remember Suitcase?
Yes.
We have Suitcase on these computers. However, so you can find it under Adobe with Extensis. You might have to authorize it first. So if you get an error when you try to open Suitcase, go and hit the authorize Extensis first because it has to log in and do some whatever first. Is that outside or what's going on? You want to close the door, Amy? Would you? Is that person going through Fred Meyer with a really rickety cart? What's going on there? That's what it sounds like, you know, when one of the wheels is like,
Yeah.
blah, 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 you know, okay. So I am now going to open this wireframe document and show you how it's built. At least show you how I build it. Because again, what we are going to do is I want to take you on the journey of doing your wireframes in Adobe Illustrator to then God. Seriously, can I use these computers, please, you guys? I want to walk you on the journey from this, right? Doing your wireframes like this to a grid, to incorporating imagery in there, to do your design layouts, okay? So this is why I want you to use Illustrator for this class, okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Trust me, it works great. Okay. So apparently the font is not loaded, so you can look at my document for reference, but I'm going to show you how to build it yourself here in a moment.
Should we have Illustrator on this computer?
Yes.
We do. Or,
So it should be, Liz, all apps should be kind of you would think it's under the Adobe folder, but it's not. It's just right there.
One thing under the letter A, and it's not Adobe.
Huh.
sometimes
How many of you don't see Illustrator? Liz, here's what I want you to do.
I'm not lying, by the way.
Liz, I think you're the one student, Liz, that I typically trust to not lie to me.
Okay.
Yeah. The others, right? Janine over here.
I can't promise I won't use that.
Yeah. So here's what I want you to do, Liz.
Take my Sunday off.
If she, so I had issues with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop Artboard. If you check and see if there's another computer.
So let me right? In other words, I don't want to get so sidetracked by, I'm having this issue, I'm having this issue, and then the whole lecture ends up being, my computer isn't working support form. I was at in my master's degree, right? I took one class from a teacher who worked at Microsoft, and half the class worked at Microsoft, and I felt like I was in a Microsoft employee support forum. So Liz, Seattle Central, this goes for everybody. If you are having any issues with your accounts or anything, send an email to Need, please, and say, I tried asking Mike and he just went, because he doesn't, yeah. Okay. So I want to then go back here. Wireframes, felt tip Roman, suitcase. I should be able to now say new set. Mic set. I should be able to choose felt tip Roman, drag it over into mic set. Drag it over into mic set. One more time, we're going to try this. Drag it over into mic set. There it is. It's adding fonts. It might take a while. So while it's adding those fonts, let's kind of take a look at this document and see how this document is arranged. Okay. So again, this document, I don't have both desktop and mobile. However, what I believe I do have for you guys is the demo from last quarter, Wireframe demo winter 17, that if you download that as well, you all saw me draw it, pick it into my, there it is. Yeah. It's like there's a 20-minute delay on all these things. You should be able to see this file as well that I created last quarter. Okay. So let's take a look at, is the font loaded yet? Oh my God. So how I have this file managed is if we look at the layers palette, I have a header layer. Now the destination layer is on. But I also have a home layer and a gateway layer. I also have a footer layer. Okay, so what I've found is this is a good way to get your overall wireframe document working to a grid, right? Have your header layer that has your navigation and your logo and some of that kind of stuff in it. You can then have your footer layer that you have that kind of stuff in there as well. You can start out by doing a layer for home. And then if you want to then modify this and reuse that stuff to lay out some of the other pages, you basically take this home layer, duplicate it, right? And start moving you want. Okay, so let's go back to Suitcase, see how things are going. It's gonna kill me. Hold on, hold on. I'm gonna quit Suitcase and try to reopen it. I'd really like that to work. My server credentials are no longer valid. Let's try to authorize it. Hopefully you're authorized. Server credentials are no longer valid. Let's see if we update now. Download it. Ready to install. I'm going to send this video to them because this is right. So in other words, they need to update this because this is supposed to be working. And I shouldn't have to install everything every time I need to use something. No, they should just get these things working is what should happen. Because how much class time do I waste? But like I said, I'm putting this on video so I can send them the video of wasting a lot of class time and getting errors and things not working like they're supposed to. So let's see. New set. Mic set. Because this stuff is supposed to be working for you guys. Well, we'll wait and see if those fonts are added. So let's create a new document, shall we? And just move on. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to recreate this wireframe demo document. Like I said, you can download this document and see how it's built. I'm not going to do a new download for this quarter, but this is the one we did last quarter, where we have a header layer. We have a home layer. I don't currently have a footer layer, but I made a duplicate for gateway. So basically what we want to do is we want to create a wireframe to the 960 grid, okay? So we can do one of two things. If we go to 960.gs, right? And you hit the big old download button. And we go to downloads. And there's the 960 grid master. And if I unzip it, while it's unzipping, let's go check on Suitcase. Still adding fonts. Okay, you unstructed it. Where'd you put it? There we go. Jeez, man. Put you in WEB200. 960 grid system. Sketch files. Templates. Illustrator. So there is a 960 grid 12 column Illustrator file that you can use if you'd like to. What? GS. Yeah. Okay. So if you look at this file, basically what it has then is it has guides in here for the 960 grid system, right? You see the 12 columns, okay? So you can use this file and modify this file if you want to. In other words, if you wanted to make a bigger artboard.
So where did you get that file?
Right, it was in the Illustrator. Under templates. Lots of stuff, right? So if you want to, then if you go to your artboards, how many of you guys have used artboards in Illustrator before? I wasn't a fan when they first came out, but I'm starting to like them a lot. Okay, so this artboard then currently is width 1020 by 1020. So if I wanted to make this 1280 by, I don't know, 2500, I could. And you would see then the grids extend out for that long. Okay, so in other words, what we need to do is we need to make so I have a habit of making my own grids, but I just wanted to show you that file, right? So what you might want to do is, because you are going to be doing wireframes that have a lot of content that you are going to be scrolling through possibly vertically, in other words, don't do your wireframes on a 8.5 by 11 landscape piece of paper that you just show me a portion. You need to show me the whole layout, okay? Does that make sense? So typically, let's do a new document. So if I'm gonna do a new document profile, I can keep it web, but if I do it, right, so let's say in here you have 1280 by 800 that you can choose, okay? So if we are doing a document where, so I'm gonna cancel this really quickly. I'm gonna go back to Suitcase, still adding fonts. When we get to doing our visual design, so if I turn the grids back on here, right? All of you are going to have to deal with the background outside of the content area, okay? Even if you do have a website that looks like this. Yeah, cool.
What size do you recommend?
Yeah, let me show you this first. Okay. So if you have a website that looks like this, right, where this portion in here, I don't know exactly what grid system they're using, but let's say that this portion in here is inside the 980 grid system, right? So let's say if we went and inspected this, and let's say we turn the responsive editor on, and we went iPad Pro, and the iPad Pro then, right now we're looking at this as a vertical width of 1366, okay? So let's say this area right here is the content area 960 grid equals this area right here. Does that make sense? So you are going to need to show me beyond the 960 grid system about what happens, for instance, for things like this background file here, or this navigation bar that goes all the way out to the edges. In other words, if I go and just hit responsive on this, and we pull out to 1798, right? This bar still goes way beyond the exterior grid. So this is right here what I call the dead area. This is right here what I'm going to reference as the live area. So if we're looking at my Illustrator file here for Jet City Improv, this stuff right here, this graphical stuff is out in the dead area. This guide system right here is the live area. Does that make sense? Okay, Nicole, what was your question?
What size do you recommend we use
For,
for the
we'll get to that right now. Okay, so if we then are going to be making a new file, right? You can start out by saying 1280 or 1440. Let's do 1440 because what that's, in other words, if we're here, if I type in 1440, right? That's the viewport for 1440 wide, right? Where we have things going out past the dead area, right? So most of your laptops, if you guys have a MacBook, your viewport is probably 1440, right? I bet you it's 1440. So that's a good starting point then. But by 900 might not be tall enough, but let's just take a look at it. So if I say okay, right? This is what not to do. Don't have a viewport that is just the visible frame, because you need to show me all the content. In other words, I need to see from top all the way through to bottom. So if you're just showing me this viewport here, you're not showing me the whole web page. Does that make sense? Okay, so therefore, what I would recommend is making this artboard. So we're going to make two different artboards. We can name this artboard desktop. We can click on this button right here. And when we click on that button, it says 1440 by 900. How tall might we want to make this? What? That's kind of what I'm asking you. See what I'm saying? You answered my question with an appropriate question, Emilio. It was. You said, how long is your page?
No, I said as tall as your page.
Oh, I thought you were asking me how long was the page. And I was, so I'm not proud of you anymore. So what my answer is then is, well, take a look at all the content that's going on here, okay? So if I look at this artboard, 2,500. Probably twice as long at least, right, is a good rule of thumb. So if I'm back here with my Untitled and click on this, 1440, let's say 2,400. So maybe not twice as long, but probably a good, make it long. Long enough. How's that? How long is your page? Emilio had the right answer. Okay. So for starters, I'm just gonna, right, make it like that. So what I want to do now is I want to make my 980 grid system. Notice I'm saying 980 and not 960. Well, if we go back to the 960 grid system and we look at the dimensions here, right? I typically add 20 margin left and margin right on the outside there. So each column is 60 pixels wide. Each gutter is 20 pixels wide. 6 times 12 times 20 times 11 plus 20 on the outsides is 980. So if we look at my site here, you notice I have it saying 980 and there are my 12 pixel or my 12 columns, okay? So what I want to start out with then is I need to make that grid system here. So again, I can use that 960 grid system download if I wanted to, or I can teach you guys a neat trick that will come in useful in your career. So I'm opting to teach you a neat trick that is useful. So stop. I'm going to click tick. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool. I'm going to click, how wide do I want to make my first box? 980, you're right, Emilio. How tall? 2,500. What was the height of my artboard? 2,400? Let's do 2,200 just for. Why?
mentioning 980 and 960.
Okay, so again, I use 10 pixels, or I use 20 pixels on either side instead of 10. So add 10 here, add 10 there to make it 20. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say 980 by 2200. We can say, okay. Emilio, let's pick on you. How am I going to get this to sit in the center of the artboard?
Align center.
Correct-ish. So if I go to my align palette, remember this from the type class, possibly. If I say align to artboard, okay, I can then hit horizontal align center and vertical align center, okay, to sit it in the center of the artboard, okay? So this is my outside guide that I haven't made into guides yet. In other words, if I go back to this Jet City one, see how I have the outs. See how I have the outside, right? Get me? Yeah? Okay. I like validation when I ask questions. Huh? That's not what I meant. I want, in other words, when I ask a question, you know, I want an answer. Not, you don't have to tell me how great I am again, Emilio. Right? I know, thanks. So I want to make the inner box now. So I'm going to hit my rectangle tool. My inner box is going to take 20 pixels off the whole perimeter in terms of width and height. So 940 by 2160, right? Okay. Center. Center. So what I should have now is two boxes, okay? So far, so good. I want to take this inner box now, and I want to make columns out of it. Object, path, split into grid, rows. How many rows do I want? Just one. Columns, how many columns? 12. What's the width of my column? That should be 940. Well, 60. Right? Okay. So now take a look at what I have. Columns. So the next thing I want to do is select all those, and keep in mind, I am on layer 1. I'm going to select all of these, go into the View menu, Guides, Make Guides. So now I have a set of guides that are a 12-column 980 grid system, okay? Yes. I'm going to label this guides and grids. Okay. So now I have my starting, in other words, I have this over here. Okay. Let's now make one for mobile. And if we make this one for mobile, let's kind of zoom in here. Oh, that should be actually 600. Right? So what I want to do is make a 4-column system for 600 wide, meaning this guide right there, that outside guide, is going to be 600. So notice that the artboard is bigger than the live area, right? So when I'm saying live area for mobile, $414 is the live area that I'm talking about here. So if I wanted to do a design where I was using 600 as just a breakpoint to design the mobile stuff, right? In other words, I understand that you may be wanting to design for the iPhone at 414. You might want to design for the iPad at 768, right?
Yeah.
So the breakpoints that I typically use for tablet is 800, for phone is 600 and below. So what I would recommend for this class is you just choose the breakpoint of, well, it's up to you, but I'm going to show you how to then do the breakpoint for 600 here, right? So if I go back to my website here and we do the responsive view and we look at 600 up top, right? That should 583. It shouldn't say 583. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. So up top it says 600, and then it has 3 columns across. There should be 4 columns across, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Oh, maybe I did 3 at 600. Huh. I like that you're answering my questions, Emilio. It does. It makes me feel like you're listening. Thank you, Emilio. We should have a bromance. We should. Or are we already?
Yes.
We are. See? Great. Fantastic. So I'll just do, you can choose to do what you want, however you want. I am then in this demo, which I need to save. Save as, documents, WEB200. Wireframe demo SP17. Okay. So I'm going to make a new artboard. I'm going to call that artboard mobile. Okay. How big should this artboard be, you think? That is not the right answer. How big should this artboard be, Emilio?
As big as the other one. No. It should be, with it, since it's 60, you may want to go 40 on each side. So
680?
680.
680 it is. How tall?
2400.
No, we don't need 2400. Maybe we do. I don't know.
You can always change the size.
Let's do 1200.
Yes.
Why is it 680?
Because
40 pixels of height.
I am doing my live area here.
So your live area would be 600.
Correct.
Okay,
The viewport would be 600.
yeah. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Just like the viewport over here is 980. Or the grid goes max 980 and the viewport is 10, right? Again, if you want to do your viewport over here, it's up to you how you want to do this, right? And again, you'll create your own working style. What I am doing here as a demo is not necessarily exactly how your document is going to come out. This is just one man's showing you how you can do it.
Yeah, because we want to control however much dead space we want, depending on the
Correct.
layout that we.
Right. But in terms of dead space, when you're talking mobile, right? Why I make it bigger than the live area is so I can put in the dimensions and maybe you know, possibly down the road, make the artboard bigger. So remember how we did specifications in the side, right? So your artboard is bigger than the actual object art that you're possibly doing. Maybe it's all relative on how you're doing it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so, but again, if we go back here, then what I want to do here is just like over there, I want to make a grid system. So again, notice I am still on my guides and grids layer. How big is my box, Emilio? What's the height? What did we have it? Let's do 1,000.
Okay, yeah. Good job.
Thank you. Align objects to artboard. Same thing. I want to take 20 pixels off each side because that's my margins, right?
Yeah.
So 560, 960. What am I going to do now?
Be amazing.
Thank you. Object, path, split into grid. And this again is where I have columns. And if I want 4 columns and I want the gutter to be 20 pixels, now the columns are 125. If I wanted to do 3 columns, I could do 3 columns, but I'm going to do 4. In other words, I'm just giving myself guides. Whoops. I know, but you know, Command Z comes in handy. Split into grid, 4, gutter, 20 pixels. Okay, so now I have that. Again, I can select all these, view, guides, make guides. All right. So from here, what I'm going to want to do is in my layers, I'm going to want to do 3 layers, 1 for header, 1 for whatever page I'm on. What should we start with? Home page? Home. 1 for footer. Oops. That wasn't amazing either. So header layer, home layer, footer layer. So from here, if I want to start working on my desktop wireframes, right? I can go grab my rectangle. I would suggest turning the fill color off. Just have a black stroke around it, where I can draw a header. So if I turn my guides off, got my header. Okay. From here, you want to show the width, right? So I can then draw a line, right? I can take that line and move that line back up here. Because again, I want to show what viewport we're looking at this on, okay? If it needs to be resized at all, again, same thing like this box. If I need to resize this box, transform palette. So if you've never used the transform palette, see this right here, this reference point?
Yes.
If I made this 1200 wide, it's going to make it 1200 from the center because the reference point is in the center. Okay. If I wanted to add 20 more pixels to the right, I would put my reference point top left. I can make it bigger like that. Okay. Yeah.
Just saved me so much time. If you're doing the math.
Right, right. Here's the thing.
Man.
Illustrator, man. Fucking Adobe Illustrator, man. Right? Right, Andrea? You're with me. I know you're with me. Yeah. So I can then, if I wanted to make it reference point center top and I wanted to make this exactly 225, I could.
You just made my whole week. I've been doing that math in my head.
Yeah, yeah. You can even do the XY coordinate
I'm
here
not-
too,
I'm terrible at math.
right? You can do the tilt, yeah. Yeah.
I
Corners.
didn't know you could move that around.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So anyway, then if I had this, let's make an arrow, let's make arrows on it. Stroke. Again, are we in the, oops, what layer are we on right now? If I select these, we're on the footer layers. We don't want to be on the footer layer. X. I want to be on the header layer. I'm going to lock these other layers. I'm going to paste. And move these back. Right there. I am going to take this stroke right there, and I'm going to open up the stroke palette. And on the stroke palette, I am going to do arrowheads. Okay, so I have the measurement, starting measurement. Here's what I'm going to do. I need to have it say 980 pixels, right? I'm going to make that character Arial regular 12. That's great. Okay. But if I sit this over top of that, I want a white box kind of around it, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Emilio. So what I can do is this. Rectangle. Swatches. White. White rectangle. Arrange. Send it back. I can take these two objects right there with my align palette. Don't align selection. Center those. Actually, that text I want centered. Paragraph. Center that text. Then if I grab those two boxes, bang, bang. I can even then grab all three of those, right? Make that a grouped object. And then let's see what my XY coordinates are for the grid. So, huh? Thanks, Neil.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing, right? So if I want this object, what was the, let's go and where's my layers, guides and grids. I'm going to unlock that. Right now, guides are locked. If I go to view, guides, I can unlock guides. So I can select that guide, right? And in the transform palette, if I select the reference point up there, I can see that the X coordinate is 230. So if I select this, I want the X coordinate to be 230. See how it moves directly, right? Thank you. Okay. Then I'm going to go back and make sure my guides are locked. Or I could just lock that there on the guides palette. But I like making sure that my guides are locked typically. From here, then, it's just a matter of here's my logo. Let's do it lowercase about, because then I can change the case if I wanted to. View, type, change case, uppercase, about, services, I'm just making up the items in my business site. Portfolio, blog, contact. So let's say then, I wanted this one about there, and this one about over here, and I wanted all of these then to align objects to selection, make sure they're on the same baseline, and then distribute objects evenly from centers. Right. Is this helping you guys watch this?
Yes.
Okay. From here then, you know, we can make our spotlight. You know, if we want our 3 boxes, again, in the live area, right? 1, hold down the Alt key, or 4 boxes, right? I just hit the Control D for duplicate, right? So from here, we can start laying stuff out. Right? Remember that if you want text, don't do this. Let's check on suitcase. Still adding fonts. So if you want just a raw lorem ipsum file, I have in my, you know, in my folder here. Right. So again, don't do this. Don't just hit there, paste in your text, because then when you try to grab this box and resize it, that's not what you want, right? So for body copy, I would take this, I would draw a box, I would then paste the text in that box, select all, character, Arial, let's say 18, or body copy, I did 16 over. What should my letting be, Janine? If it's 16 body copy. Right, 24 for the 2/3 rule. Paragraph, left aligned, okay? You don't need to draw a box around everything. Let text dictate your grid, okay? So far, is this starting to shape up like a wireframe?
Amazing.
It is, isn't it, actually?
Yeah.
Right? So, but what I should have done here is these should be on my home layer.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. Pasted them there. It's all right.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the thing. I don't want you downloading my wireframe and reusing my wireframe. But that being said, there's no reason why you can't use a stencil kit. One of my favorite stencil kits that I find most useful, that I have hidden under my resources page, is this one from Yahoo. You can download it as a PDF. Or a zip file of PDFs. So if I go to downloads, downloads, come on, show up, do it, do it. So if I open that up, you see a whole bunch of things. The unfortunate part about this is you have to actually, because they're PDFs on the PCs here, if you want to use them, you have to then go and open from Illustrator. But if I want some form elements, go ahead and use some of those stencils. Make your wireframe, it's relatively simple, right? Just black and white outlines like this. I stylized mine because after a while, I was trying to that was my brand, the felt tip Roman, the kind of sketchy look and feel, right? But if we look at some of these other ones in the Yahoo stencils folder, tabs, calendars, right? So if I needed a calendar like this to put in my sidebar, I'm not going to draw that myself. You can use that in my sidebar, turn it to be black and white, if you want to or whatever. But same thing, like if you have a video player or something, go get a stencil for that kind of stuff. But basically, from here, As well, for images, what I would recommend when you are doing images in other words, if this is an image, a content image, I would recommend that you made an X through them. Or if you want to do images stylized as a gray box, again, take a look at wireframes out there in the universe and see how they're made. There's a good website that Wireframe, let's see if it's still out there, Wireframe Showcase. Wireframe Showcase, right? Oh, well, they used to have, you know, a lot of like from wireframe to prototype kind of stuff, right? But they can be really simple, right? So, you know, make one image like this that your stroke weight is all, you know, 1 point black. You can then even say photo, put then that little white box behind it. Arrange, send it back. That text should be centered. So if I grabbed those two things and I aligned to selection, center, center, I grouped it, then I brought it over top there, you know. Basically from Illustrator, right? Does that show you how to start doing your wireframes relatively effectively? And then from there, start adding color and type in there, right? So next week, we're gonna talk setting type again. So I'll open up this file. We'll talk about setting type a little bit better and using Suitcase to load fonts. I'll have to need an email, right? But does this kind of give you enough of, oh, that doesn't look so hard and daunting? How many of you in typography, after a while, were like, oh, Illustrator isn't the devil I thought it would be?
No.
Right? Andrea, you want a TA in this class?
This class?
You're a pro in Illustrator.
I mean, I wouldn't say.
You're a pro in Illustrator.
But
You've gotten paid to do work in Illustrator.
yeah.
You're a
for
pro
years.
in Illustrator.
I've already been helping the course.
Good. Right. Okay, so that was all on video. Hopefully it recorded. But then from there, you know, you are going to have to do your mobile as well. Just keep track of, again, so if you wanted to then take what you did on your home layer, duplicate that. That's your, whoops, your gateway page now. Turn your home off, lock it. And then now you have stuff on your gateway that you can start pushing around and, you know. So again, download do yourself a favor, download from the wireframe assignment page, download the demo file from last quarter. You can download this Jet City Improv one to see how it's built. Okay, and hopefully that should, but again, don't just take my files and push stuff around. And if at least you do take my files, right, and push stuff around, change it from Copyright Premium Design Works at least. Because if you turn it in, Copyright Premium Design Works, no, don't use my files. Use my files as just a resource. Draw your own wireframes stuff. All right, so let's see. So it looks like it's been recording. Oh yeah, there's one thing that I do want to talk about that I totally forgot to talk about.